your case is really worth, I'm Spencer Callahan. I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7970.
WNXX, Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in! Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. That means we're brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Working towards the weekend here. A lot of folks sending kiddos to school for the first time at some point this week. My feed was kind of flooded with those back-to-school pictures today, but it's been kind of trickling in all week. So if you're starting to get back into a little bit more of a routine or headed to the carpool line right now to pick some kiddos up, we appreciate you locking us in, and we'll be here for the next 2 hours. Sonny Shipp in 15 minutes. LSU just locked in another commitment for the class of 2025. He'll tell you about CJ Jim Coyley. When we chat with him in 15 minutes. The Saints made a decision to extend Pete Werner's contract at $130. I'll give you my thoughts on that. Top 25 players in the Southeastern Conference by Saturday down south this hour. We'll meet some freshmen. Pete Nakos is going to join us at 2:15. I'm very interested in this discussion because we're going to have a number of discussions over the next 3 weeks about Southern Cal, and a lot of them will be with people who cover that team or maybe have a little bit more of an emotional tie to that team. You'll kind of get that edge from them. Pete Nakos is a national reporter. He just had a take on USC and especially Lincoln Riley from his time at Big Ten Media Days in Chicago. So we'll talk to Pete Nakos about that. He called it a true rebuild for USC. Where are they in that process in year 3? We'll chat about that in an hour and 15 minutes. And then Luke Johnson going to check in from Irvine at 2:30. Saints getting ready for the preseason opener against the Cardinals coming up on Saturday. We start with LSU football today, specifically Joe Sloan, who met with the media yesterday. You have heard me say this if you listen to this show with any sort of regularity at all. And if you haven't heard it yet, you will hear it in about 20 seconds. And you're going to hear it 2 or 3 more times before they play against Southern Cal. Because I think it's very relevant, and it's not something many people are talking about, in my opinion, as I consume LSU football content. Everyone who is paying attention to LSU and is covering college football and is talking about this Tiger team is just going straight to offensive line and going, best offensive line in the country, next. That's all anyone's talking about when you go to LSU's offensive line. They're all back except the center. They've got a bigger center who may be a little bit more physical presence. This is the best group in the country. What a place for LSU to build upon their 2023 offense. Okay, that's fine. I think they're good. I think it's a good group. I think that's absolutely reasonable. However, there was a huge problem last year, a huge problem that no one seems to be talking about. And I'll pull up the box scores for you. Last year, LSU opened the season with Florida State. In that game, LSU ran the football for 144 yards. 90 of those were Jaden Daniels running around for his life. Josh Williams had a 35-yard run at the end of the second quarter. One play that didn't even matter. If you take that one play away from LSU's running offense, the running backs, Josh Williams, Noah Cain, and Trey Bradford, had 11 carries for 20 yards. 11 carries for 20 yards. That's simply not running the football at all against Florida State. Now, they were dudes up front. Fiskey, Verse, they had guys up front, but LSU could not run the ball against them. Fast forward to probably the second best defensive line that LSU saw last year in Alabama. Maybe Texas A&M was, but we'll get to that. But one of the better defensive lines that LSU saw. These are the top three by anyone's metric. It would be Texas A&M, Alabama, and Florida State. Against Bama, Logan Diggs, Josh Williams, and John Emery carried the ball 13 times. They gained 43 yards. 13 carries for 43 yards from the running backs. Now, Jaden Daniels ran all over the place that day at 163 rushing yards. So the numbers look good, but the running backs didn't do anything, just like they didn't do anything outside of one carry against Florida State. And then Texas A&M, yeah, they were bad. They fired their coach, and they weren't a good team, but that was mainly based on the fact they couldn't score any points on offense. Their quarterback got hurt, and they were running an offense that was really good in 2006. But defensively, they had dudes up front. Walter Nolan, Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart. Like, they had 5-star future pro defensive linemen. And how'd LSU do running the ball that day? Well, Logan Diggs, Noah Cain, Josh Williams, and Caleb Jackson combined for 15 carries. They had 35 yards rushing on 15 carries. That's nothing. That's completely inept. Completely ineffective. Nothing. So can they be better than that? It's the same group of guys. It's still Will Campbell. It's still Emory Jones. It's still Garrett Dellinger. Still Miles Frazier. You plug in a new center. That's not a small sample size. That is 3 games against really good defensive fronts, and you couldn't run it worth squat. So are you going to be better than that? Well, Joe Sloan talked a little bit about the culture that Brad Davis is building on the offensive line.
There's some special guys up there who have played in a lot of games and seen a lot of different things. I think Coach Davis has done just a fabulous job of creating a standard in that room and creating it through players, where it's a standard that's developed through the players in that room, and they're the ones that are leading it. That's when you have a special group. You know, all those guys, and you can see the standard of the first group pulling those younger guys, and that's what's exciting, right? That's how you build a culture in a room.
And I think the culture's good. Brad Davis is a heck of a coach. And they're awesome in pass pro. Will Campbell is just, you don't beat him in pass protection. Emory Jones is likely going to be a first-round pick because of his ability in pass protection. Like, they're good in pass pro. They've got to be better in the run game. And Joe Sloan talked about challenging them.
We're going to use our playmakers to make plays. If our offensive line has the ability to understand what they're seeing, process that information, and attack it physically and violently, right? And we can put them in different situations to be successful and use their ability, right, to learn, be physical, and to run, we're going to do it. And I think that's where a lot of times when you're building an offense or when you're calling plays, you have to think about, I need to protect this guy or I need to protect that guy, or, hey, you know what, that might be too much for us. And I think we've been able to challenge them so that we can attack people in a lot of different ways and make sure we can put the ball in the belly of the back a little bit. So it's definitely been something we challenged them with this offseason, and I think they've rose to the occasion and more.
Now, keep in mind that Mike Denbrock did most of the work in the run game for LSU the last 2 seasons. Joe Sloan was the quarterback coach, pass game coordinator, Cortez Hankton, passing game coordinator, wide receivers coach. They were more so involved, in my understanding, in the passing game. Well, now they get to put their fingerprints a little bit more on the running game, and I think that's going to look a lot different than last year. I think if Jaden Daniels was back, it would probably look similar with some different wrinkles that those guys were putting in. But now that you don't have as big a threat with the running quarterback, it's got to look a lot different. And Joe Sloan spoke to kind of adding to the playbook with the running game.
Our playbook has been big since we got here. We can call every play. If you see a play on TV, we could have called it. You know what I mean? In our terminology, right? So our offense had a lot of ability to adjust to what we wanted to do. We had done some of those things in the past, but maybe within game, right? What some of you guys may have seen, hey, you felt like we were leaning more towards 1 or 2 schemes or whatever that might have been. So no, we had a lot of those things. Everything is about creating the package that fits us. And, and then we'll attack the defenses that we're going to see, in different kind of ways, right? Obviously, we're going to be able to do whatever we need to do to attack the defense, but yet allow our players to understand what we're doing.
My understanding, and trust me, y'all don't come here for all the X's and O's football knowledge. My understanding is in 2019 and 2023, LSU was pretty one track in the run game because it's all they had to be. You're going to chew up yardage and go score. It doesn't really matter how you do it. And if you do it the same way every time and they can't stop it, well, that's fine. I mean, my understanding was in the 2019 team was just a bunch of zone running schemes, and Clyde was really good at that, and Joe could figure it out, and they could win the numbers game because they were so explosive on the outside, and it just made that work. And last year, if something didn't look great in the running game, Jaden could just pull it and outrun people to the sideline and make it work. I mean, it was just, they were just so good that I don't think they had to be quite as clean or quite as diverse in the running game because of the talent that they had in the backfield and throughout the playmakers on offense. I think they're going to have to do a little bit more traditionally, a little bit more creatively this year, and a lot of that's going to fall on Josh Williams. We know that he's going to be out there a ton. John Emery has been a big piece to what they've been doing in fall camp early on. But the two younger backs are certainly going to have to play their part as well. And Caleb Jackson is the guy that everybody wants to talk about because his highlight reel is the coolest. There's no two ways about it. It is. It's really cool. But the question is, how is he kind of progressing to understand the offense and be able to do the things that they need him to do to carry the ball as many times as probably LSU fans want him to?
When he was able to get the football, and especially once he broke the first level or second level, he's a punishing back. He is hard to tackle. He runs, he gets his pads down on contact, and he's able to drive his feet. So really the big thing was the growth from being a freshman. There's so many different things to run back. It's not just get the ball and run. There's, right, how is this run scheme fitting against the defense that we're seeing, right, and where's the ball going to fit? And keeping my eyes up and understanding my read and being able to hit the proper hole. It's pass protection and being able to pick up whatever the defense gives me as we make checks. Remember, he got here last summer. He wasn't an early enrollee, so everything happened so fast for those guys. So his talent was showing, but now I think what you're seeing how he as a complete running back is going to start to come into his own.
I really hope so, because I'm just like you that's watching the games and watching the YouTube highlights and understanding, like, when he touches the ball, really good things tend to happen. I can't claim to understand every pass protection rep that he's had in practice and in games and in whatever the coaches are monitoring. I don't know. I don't know how good he is at that or how not good he is at that. I couldn't tell you. But I know how good he is when he gets the ball in his hands, and that needs to happen a good bit for LSU this season, in my opinion. And Caden Durham's another guy that I think is an immense talent. Obviously, the track speed is the first thing that jumps off, but when you go out to fall practice and kind of look at what's going on out there, like, he fits in. He does not look like a skinny little freshman. Like, he's a little shorter than well, he's not shorter than Josh Williams, but he's a little shorter than Emery and certainly Caleb Jackson, but he's still put together and he runs. He's got incredible bursts and explosions. So the question is, like, is he ahead of where he needs to be as a freshman?
Caden, as a freshman, is really far ahead of what freshmen usually are at that position. I think he shows an ability to make plays, ability to make runs, but also be able to play in the game. Right, be able to play in the game. He's not just a talent. Right, he's already shown the ability to be a running back.
I like where things are trending with LSU's running backs. I think that when you look at Caleb Jackson, Caden Durham, and then Harlan Berry in back-to-back classes, that's what LSU running backs look like to me. It's going to be up to the offensive line to play better this year in the run game against good teams so that LSU's offense can run on schedule. It did not happen last year, and Jaden Daniels just covered it up. Now, keep in mind, they did lose 2 of the games I'm talking about, and it took Jaden Daniels pulling a rabbit out of his hat in the A&M game to get it to the finish line, but they got to be better than that this year. There's no two ways about that at all. If you're looking for LSU football content, you can always find it at Hunt on LSU on YouTube. Hunt on LSU. Subscribe to the channel. All your LSU football content right there. That includes the next segment, because we're going to talk to Sonny Shipp about LSU's newest commitment they picked up just about an hour ago. That's next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical. Neil and Melissa have been running things for 40 years at Boudreaux's Electrical. Whether you're in the 985 or the 225 area code, if you're looking for a home standby generator, Boudreaux's Electrical is where you need to go. Boudreaux's Electrical has a ton of great services they offer, and you're never going to hear me talk about some sort of VIP or MVP treatment that you pay more money for. That's not the way they operate. Everyone that's a client of Boudreaux's Electrical gets fantastic service, and part of that is going to be their ability to monitor your generator remotely 24/7. So if something goes wrong, whether that's in the course of a storm or just on a normal Tuesday where something may happen and there's a mechanical failure, they'll know about it. They'll notify you, hey, something's not right with your generator. Let's come out there and fix it, so that when you need the generator to go into action to power your home, it's there and ready to do it for you. Whether it's a hurricane, one of these afternoon storms, or like we had back in January, an ice storm that came through and knocked power out for a couple of days, have the peace of mind to know that's never going to affect you at your home. Boudreaux's Electrical can do that. Same phone number they have had for 40 years, 985-397-1562. 985-397-1562. Give my friends a call or check them out online, boudreauxelectrical.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunnyquip.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years.
On Friday's OTB, it's time for some preseason football. Saints Cardinals, we get you ready. Plus, we get you ready for the weekend with some champagne shenanigans. On the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Shout out to the folks at Rouse's, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk a little Saints coming up here in about 10-12 minutes. Saints extend Pete Werner. And more news from Saints camp coming up in hour number 2. Luke Johnson will join us from out in Irvine. Saints getting ready for the Cardinals on Saturday in their preseason opener. LSU out on the practice field again today, but recruiting is where the news is coming from. LSU snags a commitment from C.J. Jim Coyley, safety prospect from Lipscomb Academy in Nashville, Tennessee. Sonny Shipp covers recruiting for 24/7, joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Sonny, how we doing?
Doing good, man. How about you, brother?
Doing real well. It seems like Corey Raymond, Brian Kelly, and company are doing very well as well. It was a little bit of a slow build on the secondary. You looked up about a month ago and going, they don't have anybody committed in the secondary at this point, and they've just started to kind of chip away, and C.J. Jim Coyley was the latest earlier this afternoon. What can you tell us about the prospect from Nashville?
Yeah, kind of has some similar traits to another guy from Tennessee that played for LSU and was part of that 2019 national championship team, Jacoby Stevens. You look at their size, pretty similar to when Jacoby got to LSU, 6'3", 205. Jacoby might have been a little bit bigger, and I think you can see Jim Coyley, being in that same mold as a guy who's going to add some weight. One thing that I look back at Jacoby Stevens' career is I think he was always one of those guys who was kind of a tweener. Was he a safety? Could he put on some weight? Could he possibly play linebacker? Maybe along the lines of, some guys we've seen in the past, like a Harry Coleman. Corey Thompson is another guy that comes to mind. And I think Jim Coyley is going to kind of be in that same mold. Is he a safety? Is he someone that you want to pair up in the secondary? If so, he's a guy who plays better closer to the line. But he's got some solid cover skills. He played a lot of corner as a junior. I think it was 50. I think he finished with 51 stops, picked off a pass. Also played some safety. So he's one of those guys who, where's he going to fit in when he gets to Baton Rouge? But has some really impressive offers. Alabama, in-state Tennessee offered him, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Penn State. So he's got some true blue bloods on his offer list, and it's going to be interesting to see if he does play safety. I think he's a nice complement to Jace Thomas out of Destrehan, who's more of that center fielder type. And so when you look at, with Jake Olson, obviously he loved to pull Jonah Williams, the 5-star safety out of Texas, who's going to be announcing later this month. But when you pair Jace Thompson up to CJ Jim Coyley, I think you got to be happy with that tandem.
I always laugh at some responses in the recruiting world, and you certainly know it better than anybody, having been in it as long as you have. But people look at this and go, oh, well, they feel like they're not going to get Jonah Williams. This is just an insurance policy. This doesn't affect Jonah Williams, you wouldn't imagine, no?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, look, when you've got certain guys who you don't even look at the recruiting board to say whether or not this guy is a take. And Williams is one of those guys. He's that guy to where, okay, if we've got, if we wanted 2 safeties, we got 2, guess what? We can make room for a dude like Jonas Williams. And so, I don't think that's going to have any impact whatsoever on his decision. And, and quite frankly, when you look at it, people have been, not just me, but others have been projecting Jim Coyley to LSU for well over a week now, maybe a little bit longer in some cases. And so, Jonas Williams and these kids these days, I mean, if they know how many stars they have, if they know where they are in the recruiting rankings, they also know what those boards look like and what that chatter is going on out there too.
So you mentioned Jace Thomas, who they brought in this class, and obviously DJ Pickett at cornerback is a really, really great pull as a 5-star over on 24/7. People were panicking a little bit about the defensive back recruiting. How would you assess those 3 players, and then the opportunity to potentially add another really big fish in Corey Raymond's first full cycle here at LSU?
Yeah, I think when I think when you look at the commitment list, I think obviously cornerback has kind of been the focus, but when you look at the secondary as a whole, you got DJ Pickett, you got your 2 safeties now. LSU's gonna, DJ Pickett's not going to be the only cornerback that LSU takes in this class. Obviously, he's kind of the cornerstone, the one that all the eyes gravitate to, being at, number 9 in the country, a 5-star and all that. But I think Corey Raymond still has some tricks up his sleeve. And, one thing that we've seen and will continue to see is that the commitment list that you see right now here on August 8th, and then when you look at it again on December 8th, about a week or so before the early signing period starts, is going to look a lot different. The NIL bags, the offers that some people have now are going to increase tremendously once the season gets started. Schools are going to, some schools are going to exceed their expectations. Others are going to fall below those expectations. That's going to influence some recruits as well. Of course, we know how the coaching cycle works, and how quickly we're seeing now that head coaches get fired, barely into the season now. And so there's a lot of variables that are going to be at play. But if you're an LSU fan, I think you look at this. You look at this commitment list right now, and you say, yeah, let's get another cornerback. And if you get another cornerback, anything else that you can add from that safety and the cornerback spot will kind of be lanyard.
I mean, at this point in the calendar last year, Gabriel Elliford and Don McKinley were Texas A&M Aggies. We know how that story ended. You could also look at Weston Davis in that way as well. And I think, obviously LSU is going to have Brian Kelly for the foreseeable future. The dollars and cents say that, and right now the record book says that. And so you feel like LSU's in a really strong position, even when things get turbulent in November, to do something like they did last year and pick up some big name guys who may be committed elsewhere right now. I would never ask you for those names, but knowing what you know about the cycle and this new world that we're living in, does that sound like something that's feasible?
Oh, absolutely, man, absolutely. And and I think when you look at this 2025 class, it's up to 20 commitments now. Who knows how high they're going to go now that the new rule is in place, to where you can have 105 scholarship players. Your roster limit is maxed out at 105 now. So how do you balance all the walk-ons that you have right now with, I'm sure some of those will get put on scholarship. But I also think that, while LSU's at 20 commitments right now, I think that this new rule is going to present some situations to where some other guys could get offered. Jacob Bradford, for instance, the cornerback out of Catholic. He was a guy who's kind of been on the fringe of whether or not he was going to pick up an offer. Committed to Houston right now, but LSU went ahead and they pulled the trigger. And I think he's another guy who they'll eventually add into this class. And kind of like C.J. Jim Coyley, he's a guy who brings a lot of versatility to the table. Plays cornerback. He's got a nice frame, and he's got some. He's a solidly built, muscular kid. So you could very easily see him end up growing into a safety. Then I think you got some other guys inside the state who we've seen some late offers in the past, and I think that's going to be the case again. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they balance those new scholarship numbers, though.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, do you think that LSU will probably hover around 30 in most of their high school signing classes? We know that Brian Kelly wants to keep things in the high school ranks more so than the transfer portal, and obviously 4 times 30 is over that 105. It's up to 120, but you're going to have natural attrition with the transfer portal. Do you think most high school classes are going to end around 30?
That's kind of the number that I've kind of zeroed in on, since that new rule went into effect. And, I had some folks on the board saying, man, that seems like a lot. Yeah, especially when you consider that, you're probably going to still have, while Brian Kelly doesn't want to build through the portal, I mean, you're probably still going to be looking at, 6, 7, at least 6 or 7 guys that you pull out of the portal just to kind of help fill some needs. I mean, look, we already saw Mac Markway hit the portal, and now it kind of begs the question of, okay, does that mean LSU has to go out and get a tight end in this cycle to join the portal? I don't think so necessarily, although I do think that Mason Taylor, I think this guy's in line for an All-American type season, just the way that he's come into camp. As much as Joe Sloan plans on implementing the tight end into this offense, I think he's going to put up some really huge numbers if he stays healthy. But I don't think you have to go out and immediately target a tight end in the transfer portal unless something happens and you lose a guy like Kamorian Pimpton, Tradez Green, one of those guys. Then you could really find yourself kind of in a bind at that spot. But LSU already has J.D. LaFleur committed out of Sulphur for that position. Mike Tyler's a tight end out of South Carolina who myself and others think that will also end up in Baton Rouge. And then you got a tight end over at, I believe it's Holy Cross. Man, I don't know why. No disrespect to either, but I always get Holy Cross and Shaw confused when it comes to the similar uniforms and things like that. But, they've got a tight end over there who I think is going to garner some more interest and attention as the season goes along. So that's going to be an interesting position when you talk about, when the portal gets brought up.
Sonny, we appreciate some time. We'll do it again soon. Thanks.
Absolutely, brother. Have a good one.
You too. He's Sonny Shipp. Go 24/7, 24/7 Sports. All your recruiting needs. Glenn West with us every Tuesday. He's got the team covered as well. So great stuff over there to Go 24/7. We appreciate him jumping on. CJ Jim Coyley, safety out of Tennessee, the latest addition to LSU's class. Tigers now up to 20 commitments. 24/7 has LSU with the number 3 class in the country. Let's go ahead and quickly check out what On3 says about LSU's class with that addition of Jim Coyley. 24/7 has LSU at 3. So does On3 has LSU at 3. So LSU with a top 3 class by both of those services. To Brian Kelly and his team doing a fantastic job on the recruiting trail, and we anticipate this class closing is potentially high as number 1, but certainly inside the top 5 when it's all said and done. And as Sonny mentioned, like a lot of things happen between now and that signing day with coaches getting fired and NIL offers and all kinds of stuff. So we'll be sure to bring you any information as it becomes available to us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. When we come back, Saints made a move with a current player. He's been extended. I talk about these contracts all the time. This is a good one or a bad one. We'll do that next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy. EvolvePT.com is the website. You can go see him starring near Highland Road. Maybe youth athlete. Football season is cranking up. Injuries happen, whether it's in training camp or in the game. You're looking for physical therapy to recover from that injury, Evolve Physical Therapy is your spot. Maybe you're in your 60s or 70s trying to get back on the tennis court or trying to run every day, get back in the gym and not able to because of some pain, whether it's been from an accident or because you got hurt doing what you love to do. Get back to it. Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. Robbie Bolton says, once I see you once, I will see you forever. And that's because his customers and clients have such a fantastic experience when they go to Evolve. It's hands-on, and it works. They get you back to being your active selves. Trust the same people that Austin Nola trusts, that Anthony Renato trusts, that Kevin Gaussman trusts to get back to playing professional athletics. Robbie Bolton and his team are it, whether it's soft tissue manipulation, dry needling, cupping, scraping, isokinetic testing. If you're not feeling your best and want to get back to being your active self, Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports is where you need to be. It's EvolvePT.com, starring near Highland Road. Evolve Physical Therapy, EvolvePT.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add mountain cold.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. Tigers have the day off, but what have we learned through LSU camp so far? And the Saints' final practice before preseason game number 1. We'll have it covered. Join us Thursday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Moving right along here, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Speaking of the New Orleans Saints, made a move today. Well, not a move, made a decision and agreed to terms on a new contract for Pete Werner. Saints linebacker signed a 3-year contract extension worth just north of $25 million. 17.5 of that is guaranteed. So essentially what this is a 2-year deal with an add-on year that's not guaranteed in year 3. And it's basically prove it. If he plays really well for 2 years, absolutely, we'll tack that right on. But for right now, that part is not guaranteed. We've talked a lot about Saints contracts since January and kind of the direction of where the Saints have gone. And I have said the same thing over and over and over and over and over again and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Saints need to be young and cheap. Pete Werner is young. He's very young. He's only been in the league for 3 years. He's 24 years old. Will play his year 25 season this year. And he's been very good. Injuries got him that first year as a second-round pick, 2021 draft. He only started 8 games, played in 15, and then he missed a couple of games there in 2022. But last year played 16 games and was very, very productive. In fact, in the last 2 seasons, he's made a total of 173 tackles for New Orleans. He's a very, very good player. And $17.5 million over 2 years, which is essentially what we're talking about here, is not super expensive. So in my estimation, this is exactly what the Saints need to do. You've hit on a draft pick. He's productive. He's young. He's not very expensive. You lock him up, and you make that deal a short-term deal that can't put you really in any peril moving forward. This is exactly what I'm talking about the Saints need to be doing. These draft picks are vital moving forward, and we know that there are some that are in real question. Trevor Penning, fair to really question that one. You're in the final year here of dealing with Peyton Turner. It is what it is. But you look at guys like Taliesin Fuanga, looks really good. Chris Olave looks really good. Brian Brzee looks really good. And you got the other side, it's like Kendre Miller. What do we know? I don't know. But Pete Werner has proven himself to be a very, very solid NFL linebacker. He's played 43 games for you through 3 years, and he's made 235 tackles. Demario Davis continues to age, but he's playing at an all-pro level. You plug Pete Werner right in there next to him, and this is a really formidable linebacker group, and I think this is a fantastic move for New Orleans. Of course, they locked up Rashid Shaheed earlier in this summer. They now do the same thing with Pete Werner. It feels like the next domino to fall here is probably Paulson Adebo. Werner was entering the last year of his deal. Same thing goes for Adebo here coming up, and so you got to make sure that you sign him because Paulson Adebo is young and not that expensive. These are the guys you've got to worry about. It's why I wasn't so gung-ho on the idea of making sure that you got Alvin Kamara a deal agreed to. And then Alvin Kamara, leverages a thing, and he didn't necessarily take it when he got in front of a microphone and goes, well, I'm going to play, I'm going to be here, but I just like a new deal. And he was very business-like and very personable with the media, and he said all the things that you want to hear as a Saints fan. I think maybe as his agent, it might not have been exactly what he wanted to hear, but he's getting old. There's no two ways about it. Pete Werner's not. I want Pete Werner around. I want Rashid Shaheed around. I want Paulson Adebo around, and the Saints are doing a good job of locking some of those guys up. The way the Saints are going to get out of this malaise, out of this funk, out of this haze, is to keep hitting on these draft picks and signing them to manageable contracts. And then at some point, when some of this rolls off the books and you've got more room to spend money, you can start to fish in deeper waters in free agency. We always talk about the Saints bargain shopping in free agency. Well, you don't have to do that if you hit on draft picks, pay them affordable contracts, and free up some money. But the Saints just haven't had any free money. Well, we're working towards that. I think everything they have done from a contractual perspective this offseason has been good. And look, I'm not sitting here day in and day out regaling the Saints' progress as an organization. Quite the opposite. I was texting with a group of buddies, a lot of which are huge Saints fans today, and I was like, man, it's just not an organization that feels super interesting. If you were atrocious and looking for your first-round pick as a quarterback, that'd be interesting, even though you're terrible. If you were the Chiefs, you'd be really interesting because you got a chance to win the Super Bowl. The Saints are straddling that line and kind of looking in mediocrity, which is not all that interesting. But as we look at this and cover this day to day and pay attention to what the Saints are doing, they've shifted a little bit, and they're making moves that I applaud. They've done plenty of moves in the past that I look at and go, huh? Why? Not this year. And this Pete Werner move makes a ton of sense. So Adam Schefter reporting that deal just more than $25 million over 3 years, 17.5 guaranteed, essentially boils us down to a 2-year contract. Prove it in year 3. No chance that's going to be a huge burden for the organization like some of these contracts in years gone by have been. I think this is a solid move by the New Orleans Saints to extend Pete Werner. Paulson Adebo is up next. We'll talk We'll talk to Luke Johnson coming up in about 45 minutes from Irvine. Saints back on the practice field today. Probably lighter intensity today as they ease toward a game. They'll have a travel day tomorrow, maybe a walkthrough tomorrow as well, and then they'll play the Cardinals on Saturday in their first preseason game. I want to talk to Luke about the backup quarterback situation. I want to talk to him about how he thinks the Saints are going to handle offensive line play in this game. I wouldn't imagine you're going to see a ton of Cesar Ruiz or McCoy, but you probably need to see the young guys play. Maybe. We'll see. I want his thoughts on that, and then we'll also get his thoughts on some of the contractual things that the Saints have looked at, including this extension of Pete Werner. So looking forward to our conversation with Luke Johnson coming up in 45 minutes. When we come back, interesting piece on Saturday Down South about the top 25 players in the Southeastern Conference. Got multiple Tigers on this list. Tell you who and where they rank coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Visit LeBare's Baton Rouge Casino this summer. Summer's kind of winding down, but that doesn't mean there's not live sports action. It's all right there at LeBare's Baton Rouge. They've got the biggest screens around, and ESPN Bet is live in Louisiana. If you have not been to LeBare's to check out a game or a night of sports, it's a lot of fun. They got a fantastic sports book in there, and you can check out Penn Play app. Penn Rewards members can win up to $500 in PennCash every single week. Got to go to PennPlaySports.com/cover5 and register for your chance to play and win. If you're not a member, it's no big deal. You can just get the Penn Play app today. LeBare's Baton Rouge Casino, your live sports headquarters. Bring your crew for all the action. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 877-770-STOP.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Mosco.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, you know, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, you know. We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so
on Friday's OTB. It's time for some preseason football. Saints Cardinals, we get you ready. Plus, we get you ready for the weekend with some champagne shenanigans on the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You are listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Well, women's water polo just lost. Aussies got us.
Man, they still, I think there's a semifinal, so they can get a bronze, I think, in the third place match.
Man, you talk about like a hangover spot in college football where like you win a huge game and then you got to come back and get back up. I feel like the opposite's true. Like you lose your chance at a gold medal, and like I think there was a shootout right there, and you got to come back and play for a bronze. Like I guess you can get hyped up trying to win that bronze medal, but like the gold being off the table, it's got to be tough to show up.
I think it's probably a little different though for the Olympics, because even getting a bronze is still such a high achievement. Yeah, so I think for the most part, I would believe that most teams, even though they lost the chance of the gold, are still going to be pretty juiced to try to get a bronze.
Maybe it's like the better example would be when LSU would be like 8-1, 9-0, whatever, playing Alabama, and then you lose that game and you're not going to win the West, and then Arkansas shows up. It's like you just can't quite get as amped up as you were. We'll see. So the United States will play the Netherlands for the bronze. Australia and Spain will duel for the women's water polo gold. So there's a little update from Paris. Saturday on South came up with the top 25 players in the SEC. There are 3 from LSU, and that starts at number 14. They've got Emory Jones. Says when he was healthy, he played at least 51 snaps in all 11 games that he finished. He did so for an LSU offense that had the second most yards per play of any FBS team in the playoff era. So Emory Jones, LSU's right tackle, comes in at 14. You've got some love for Harold Perkins. He comes in at number 4. Says, sure, last season was a disappointment in his transition to inside linebacker, although his coverage skills did improve as the season progressed. But Perkins still has 27 tackles for loss in 27 career games, which is pretty remarkable to say about somebody who is 19 years old. So Emory Jones there, Harold Perkins at 4. Number 2, Will Campbell. Rarely do we see someone instantly step into the SEC and be a day one left tackle, but Campbell took advantage of the opportunity by becoming Pro Football Focus's number 5 most valuable Power 5 tackle during that stretch while blocking for the Heisman Trophy winner in Jaden Daniels. So Will Campbell comes in at 2. Incidentally, number 1, Luther Burden III from Missouri, who they say is the top player in the SEC. So not shocking that those are the three guys from LSU. Beck, I will pose you a question. I will answer it myself as well, but I'll give you the floor first. If they come up with this list, top 25 players in the SEC in December after we've played the regular season, what LSU player that's not on this list would you think had made it?
Well, I think the obvious choice, at least in my opinion, is Kyron Lacey. He's expected to be the top receiver. And if Garrett Nussmeier has a great season, which many people think he can and will, I think Kyron Lacey will probably be the leading receiver for LSU and probably will have some good stats, which is an easy way to get on top 25 lists like that. So I'd probably go with him.
I think that's my answer, too. I have another one that I will give, but I'll talk about Kyron Lacey first. I talked about it yesterday. Like, he has been jaw-dropping in camp. I mean, it's not just like – I've seen a lot of receivers come through LSU in spring ball and in fall camp. I remember Jarvis Landry's first fall camp before he got hurt. And or maybe his second fall camp right before his sophomore year when he was awesome. I was like, God, this guy's unbelievable. And I remember Jamar Chase, I looked at and he was like, that guy's incredible. And one guy that I really liked watching at practice as well was Ruben Randall because he's big and physical and he just was so smooth running his routes. And there's some guys you notice. I mean, I don't know that I noticed DJ Chark that much, and he became a great player at LSU as well. But it's just the body control and catching the ball with your hands. I think there have been a lot of practice footage that have come out where you see Kyron Lacey high pointing back shoulder throws and making catches over guys. A lot of guys can run on air and catch slants, and everybody kind of looks the same doing that. But when you get into those one-on-ones and you're making catches over guys and difficult catches, that jumps, and he's doing that every single time we go out there. I think he's going to be fantastic. I was going to go with another guy. I have one that I think is more likely and another that I'm hopeful on. The one that I think is more likely, potentially Mason Taylor. I could see Mason Taylor catching 750 yards worth of balls, and if he were to, I think touchdowns are a little bit more chance than like actual production. You got to get a little bit more fortunate to be a touchdown leader. But I think if things fell right in the red zone, some play calls and some defenses opened up for LSU, that he could end up with 7, 8, 9 touchdowns, and at that point you would potentially consider him for this. I'm hopeful on another one though. Deshaun Womack. I'm hopeful on Deshaun Womack. I feel like we don't know a ton about what he can be. He was limited in what he did last year. They had older players. They had Braden Swinson. They had Ovie Agofu. They had Savion Jones, and those guys got more reps, Parrish Shand as well. Now you've got a couple of those guys who have moved on, and Womack's kind of moved up, and I'm hopeful that he becomes the pass rusher that everybody saw when he was a senior in high school. There's a reason he was rated as a 5-star. You go out to practice, you look at Deshaun Womack. He's not carrying any bad weight. He's got kind of those broad shoulders and not a wide waistline. He's got long limbs, and that's a guy that LSU needs. I'm very cautious with any optimism I shed on the cornerback play right now. I just don't feel great about it. And I'm very uncomfortable, I think, a lot with what LSU's got at defensive tackle. There's a lot that has to go right for LSU to be good in those two spots. When I look at edge, I feel a little bit differently. Like, there's a real chance that Deshaun Womack is an all-league player. I just don't think P.J. Woodland's an all-league player right now. I personally don't think Ashton Stamps is an all-league player right now. I'm hopeful those guys could be, but man, Deshaun Womack has every ability to be that. So I'd love it if that were the case, and we won't really probably know until we get out there in Las Vegas whether or not he can rise to that occasion. He's certainly running with the first team more often than not, and had all those accolades coming out of high school. I just hope that pays off. As we kind of peek around this list, some non-LSU players, I'll just give you the top 10. James Pierce at Tennessee is going to be probably a top 5 pick. He's probably the best edge rusher in the conference at Tennessee, so he's there at number 3. Deion Walker from Kentucky on the defensive line is number 5. Kelvin Banks, Texas offensive tackle, very much in the same conversation as Will Campbell, and will be in that conversation come draft day. He's number 6 on this list. Malachi Starks at Georgia is kind of the leader of their secondary at safety. Carson Beck, first quarterback on this list, comes in at number 8. He's the Georgia quarterback. Right behind him, that's kind of, you would imagine, Quinn Ewers, the Texas QB, and then right behind those two guys at number 10, so 8, 9, and 10, all quarterbacks, number 10, Jalen Milroe at Alabama. That is going to be really fascinating, and we haven't really talked about a lot of different SEC teams since media days when we got into a bunch of that. Jalen Milroe is so different than Jake Haener and Michael Penix. So different. Those of you that are Saints fans kind of know what Jake Haener's game is. He's not huge, doesn't have a huge arm, doesn't run a lot, but kind of a savvy passer and threw up for a bunch of yards at Fresno State. And you know that Michael Penix doesn't have a huge arm, but was very accurate and just did all his damage from inside the pocket. Not a guy you saw rolling out or doing a lot of things with his legs. And Jalen Milroe is a horse playing quarterback. He threw it really well on the deep ball, but he made a lot of mistakes early in the season as well. I'm just curious how Kalen DeBoer's offense translates from Jake Haener to Michael Penix to Jalen Milroe. If he's a great coach, there's a lot to do with Jalen Milroe. If he's got to do it one way, Jalen Milroe's got a long way to go to do that. So I'm curious about that. I think a lot of people are, and we'll kind of see. So Saturday in the South, top 25 players in the SEC. They got Emory Jones, Harold Perkins, and Will Campbell all inside the top 15. We figure those guys will kind of be the faces of LSU football with Garrett Nussmeier this coming fall. That's it for hour number 1 here on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can always find us. We opened the show with Joe Sloan sound on the LSU running game, and my statistics from last year where it wasn't very good. They've got to get better this year. If you want to catch that, you can do so on Hunt on LSU on YouTube. Sonny Shipp talking about CJ Jim Coyley, LSU's newest commitment at safety. Saints extended Pete Werner. You can find that video at Hunt on Saints. And then we talked about Saturday on South's top 25 players in the Southeastern Conference. Pete Nakos in 20 minutes talking about Lincoln Riley and USC in a rebuild. What does he think about the Trojans who LSU will open with out in Vegas? Luke Johnson in 35 minutes from Saints Camp in Irvine. When we come back, we'll meet the freshmen. You come back after Sports Center. It's a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown with breaking news from the Olympics. Noah Lyles is denied in his attempt at the Olympic sprinting double. Letsili Tebogo of Botswana wins the gold in the 200 meters. American Kenny Bednarik gets silver. Lyles takes bronze. And after the race, NBC reported Lyles tested positive for COVID just 2 days ago. The U.S. men's basketball team about to tip off in the semifinals against Serbia. 2 days after snapping a 21-game losing streak, the White Sox fire manager Pedro Grifol today. It was only his second year on the job after taking over from Tony La Russa. Grady Sizemore promoted to interim manager. Bills quarterback Josh Allen and the first-team offense will play for about a quarter Saturday against the Bears. Head coach Sean McDermott likes the vibe in the Bills receivers room.
More than anything, I like where the kind of the unselfishness is in terms of that position. You know, in terms of just every day, I think if you charted it, there's somebody different catching the ball.
Bills head coach Sean McDermott.
Here's one stat that's super simple to remember. Discover automatically doubles the cash back on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cashback Match. With Discover, you could turn $150 cash back to $300. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2. Thursday edition of Hunt Palmer Show presented by Rouse as we're working towards the weekend. Rouse is the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. If you're watching the Saints this weekend in some preseason action, looking for some grub or some drinks, Rouse's is your one-stop shop. If you don't care at all about the NFL preseason and you just want some groceries for the weekend, Rouse is also your one-stop shop. Got fantastic steaks back there at the butcher shop at the Rouse's on Burbank and Lee, which is our home grocery store. Also got great burgers. They get creative with the burgers. They do some like pepper jack stuffed burgers. They can do some shrimp stuffed burgers, blue cheese stuffed burgers. And they got your leaner stuff like your pork chops or chicken as well. Always a great option if you're looking to throw something on the grill or just get something for the weekend. Also got a great hot bar over there at Rouse's if you're looking to swing by at lunch. Salad bar, hot bar, always a great option. A lot of times when I'm going through Rouse's, I'll swing through the hot bar section and grab a little meat pie there that I can eat right when I check out. Always a nice little tasty snack there from the folks over at Rouse's. We appreciate them for being our sponsor here on Thursdays. The USA and the Serbs just tipped off from Paris. Are we concerned about the Serbians back?
I would say not very much. I think the line is 15.5. Saw some people in the chat saying they were taking the Serbs with plus 15.5. I think that it could be close, but I do think the U.S. win by 15 or more.
Do you think there's something to be worried about if they get to the gold medal game against the homestanding French in that building?
Yes, I think that could be a really good game. Victor Wembanyama is not – no one can stop him. So if he just has an incredible game and some other guys for
LeBron's
France
twice his age.
Down,
You ought to be able to rough him up a little bit.
Yeah. No, I would be a little bit concerned with that for sure. But this game, not so much. Unless Jokic is going to have to play the entire game. I was reading an article where their stats their plus
crazy.
minus without him on the court is just unbelievable. So if he plays the whole game and is really good, then maybe it'll be close. But I still think the U.S. win.
I do too. I think they're going to win the gold medal. So we will take that. We are about 15 minutes away from our conversation with Pete Nakos, who wrote a piece up on 3 about USC and kind of their rebuild under Lincoln Riley and what he expects this USC team to look like. And I felt like that was relevant news down here in Baton Rouge, considering we're just about 3 weeks away from LSU and USC doing battle out in Vegas. So we'll chat with him in about 15 minutes. Luke Johnson with us in 25 minutes or so from Saints Camp out in Irvine. But now let's meet the freshmen.
Meet the freshmen. Freshmen, meet the freshmen. They're the newest Tigers on the team.
Got some big body boys that we'll talk about today. We'll start on the defensive line with Ahmad Bro, 6'3", 285 pounds. Defensive lineman from Ruston up in the 318. Consensus 3-star prospect, was not top 20 in Louisiana by any of the services, but still a guy that LSU identified and wanted to bring in. I will talk about this portion of his recruiting because I think it does shed some light on the evaluation process. He was committed to Duke. And Mike Elko is a defensive line coach by trade and has a really good eye for defensive linemen. And at Duke, you're just not going to swim in the 5-star waters. He can do that now at Texas A&M and not going to have any problem with it. But at Duke, that's hard to do. And he identified Ahmad Bro as a guy that he liked early on and got his commitment. Then he moved to Texas A&M, and LSU swooped in and picked him up. But I think that although he's a project and not a guy that's ready to play right now, that's what the older guys they brought in are for. Those guys need to fill in those gaps this year. But Ahmad Bro, I think, could be a guy that becomes a diamond in the rough, so to speak, to use a cliche, in time. The interesting thing about Ahmad Bro has nothing to do with his ability to play the shade or the 3 technique or the 5 technique or whatever the case may be down the defensive line. It doesn't have to do with him being able to strike and shed or tackle the ball or get some pass rush, push the middle. It doesn't have to do with any of that. The interesting thing about Ahmad Bro, he builds computers. He studies software engineering at LSU. That's really cool to me. I don't think there's a ton of guys who on Saturdays attempt to rip a quarterback limb from limb and then on Monday hop into the lab and start building CPUs. But Ahmad Bro is that guy. I thought that was very fascinating. So a cool story there. Ahmad Bro, 6'3", 285-pounder from Ruston. He is the first freshman today. The second is quite literally the largest man on the team. If you go out to practice, you have no issue determining where he is. That is Ori Williams. Ori Williams is 6'8", and 335 pounds. He is a massive human being. He hails from San Marcos, Texas, and he's another one. I talked about this with Weston Davis the other day. He's a hooper. He grew up playing basketball, loves basketball, and at 6'8", figured there might be a future there, but he stopped growing at 6'8", and when you're 330 pounds at 6'8", hoops may not be in your best interest. Got a lot of 6'11" guys who can really jump, makes life a little tougher. Offensive tackle, 6'8", 344, 334 works quite nicely. He's only played 2 years of varsity football at the high school level. So this is another project, but Brad Davis has taken a few of those in, and he understands that once Will Campbell, Emory Jones, Garrett Dellinger, Miles Frazier move on, these are the guys you're going to have to count on. And it's good to have all these physical attributes, but they've got to develop as football players, and Ori Williams is kind of in the process of doing that. But it's not like LSU took him off the scrap heap and nobody wanted him. Ori Williams was recruited by Texas, Florida, Texas A&M. A lot of folks wanted him, and LSU secured his commitment on 3, and ESPN liked him the best as far as the services go. He was a 4-star by both, made the ESPN top 250. He's not currently running with the 2s. Weston Davis is running with the 2s at right tackle. Cohen Eccles is running with the 2s at center. Those are guys in his class, but he is running with the 3s, and it's a guy that has got a lot of physical ability that Brad Davis is going to have to get out of him. I think there are some players that are ready-made to come in and play, and there are a lot of guys that aren't. Most guys aren't. And Ori Williams and Ahmad Bro would fall into that bucket. That doesn't mean you can't be developed, though. They're both guys that the staff likes a whole heck of a lot. They're early in their college careers, and they've got a lot of time to grow and develop. But they're interesting prospects, Ahmad Bro and Ori Williams. today's installment of Meet the Freshman. We are more than halfway done with Meet the Freshman at this point. We're doing 2 every single day until we have talked about them all. And we hadn't quite gotten there just yet. I'm looking up our doc here to see how many we've got left. I believe we've got like 5 days left of Meet the Freshman, if memory serves. We knocked those 2 out today. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exactly, 5 days left. We got Wallace Foster, Ethan Callaway, and Aaron Burrell tomorrow. Only 3 for on Meet the Freshman. We're going to do that on a Friday. Still got to talk about C.J. Jackson, Devon Keys, Bernard Causey, Caden Durham, Michael Turner, Kalaj Cobbins, Xavier Atkins, and Dom McKinley. Kalaj Cobbins, we'll talk about him on the 14th, so we got some time, but he's a guy that the staff really, really likes at this point, and we've seen flashes from him in fall camp at this point. So that's your Monday edition here of Meet the Freshman. USA and Serbia off and running. Team USA got a 4-point lead as they play in the first quarter from Paris. We'll keep you updated as that game moves along here in hour number 2. Luke Johnson going to be with us in 20 minutes talking Saints. When we come back, I'm curious to get the thoughts from Pete Nakos on this USC team. We're starting to creep towards the opener, and I've intentionally not gone too deep into what USC is. I think you all know Lincoln Riley. I think you all know Miller Moss. I think you all know they've got to revamp some things on defense. But Pete Nakos paints the picture of what Lincoln Riley inherited when he got there and kind of what is there post Caleb Williams. I thought that was interesting, and we'll talk to him about that coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, safety is something that I talk about a couple times a week with One Bath and Closets because it's so important, and it's something that he does so often with folks in the Baton Rouge area. If you are aging or someone in your family that's aging and the bathroom may be a hazardous spot for them, let One Bath and Closets come in and do some things to help. Non-slip floors, handrails around the shower and toilet areas, walk-in tubs, benches in the showers. All of these can help make the bathroom a safer environment for aging folks in your life. They want to stay home. Well, One Bath and Closets can help you with that. They're happy to do it. Start with that free consultation. Go to onebathandclosets.com. Click the button for that free consultation. Get David Duvall and his team involved. Tell them what you're looking for. They can customize things for you. And if you tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you in, right there, you get $1,000 off of your deal. OneBathAndClosets.com is a great website. They got pictures of their fantastic work. They've got testimonials from satisfied customers from over the years, and you can also get that free consultation I tell you about every single year. David Vaughn and his team have been doing this for 30 years. Let them help you in the bathroom with your closets as well. It's One Bath and Closets. Check them out online, OneBathAndClosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. Tigers have the day off, but what have we learned through LSU camp so far? And the Saints' final practice before preseason game number 1. We'll have it covered. Join us Thursday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Serbs are shooting the lights out in Paris. That's what you really couldn't have for your Team USA, but it's early. We'll keep you posted as we continue to move forward here at the Olympics on this Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. A lot of times people talk about what you want to be when you grow up, and you look at, at titles that didn't exist when you were a youngster. And Pete Nakos, who we hope to have as our next guest here, is college sports business and transfer portal reporter for On3 Sports. That really wasn't a thing. It's about 6 years ago. College sports business, well, a lot of people making a lot of money, but the players aren't doing a lot of that. And now they very much are. And the transfer portal was not a thing about 5 years ago, and now it very much is. And Pete Nakos covers those two things for On3 Sports and does a fantastic job with it. He's got a piece up on 3 talking about USC and Lincoln Riley. It's titled, "Can Lincoln Riley and USC take a big step forward in year 1 in the Big Ten?" And obviously piqued my interest, gave it a look, and certainly should pique yours as LSU gets ready to play USC in the opener here in 3 weeks. Pete joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Pete, thanks so much for your time. How are you?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Doing quite well. I read your piece, and I was fascinated by a few aspects of it, but one of the things that kind of piqued my interest the most was Lincoln Riley's demeanor at Big Ten Media Days, and you spoke that it didn't exude a ton of confidence. Can you kind of speak to what you picked up from him in his short time there in Chicago?
Yeah, it's Lincoln Riley. He should be walking in there feeling really good entering year 3 at USC, and it was everything but that. It was talking about rebuilding, talking about still trying to catch up in NIL and facilities, and it just doesn't really echo what he said when he took the job at USC. And it really, I know I'm not the only one who felt like this in the media. It really kind of left you scratching your head about where exactly is this USC program at? So, I know that week 1 game is so big. I'm not going to make predictions exactly, but he didn't exactly talk USC's definitely going to roll into Vegas and knock off LSU. That was the last thing he really said.
Do you believe him when he says they're playing a bunch of catch up and they're not where people think they should be?
I don't think I exactly agree that they're playing catch up and everything. I think it's a very interesting way to kind of reset expectations entering this year. And you know what else I'll say too is they've just handled the quarterback position very interestingly. Like, I'm very well aware that Caleb Williams won in there and won a Heisman. Like, that's awesome. Lincoln's done a great job of really developing quarterbacks. But now to have Miller Moss come in and that kind of be the best option. I mean, I'm really high on the UNLV quarterback in there, Jade Mayava. I don't know if he'll start or not. But then they lost Malachi Nelson in the portal. And then, I mean, this Julian Lewis, who knows if he goes to Colorado or if he flips away from USC. So, I don't know if I really buy the whole catching up thing, but it really seems like Lincoln Riley was trying to reset expectations.
It's pretty simple when people from the outside kind of label USC with a broad brush here. It's, okay, well, they had a Heisman Trophy quarterback and they scored a bunch of points, but their defense is terrible. We know that Alex Grinch was finally let go, and we know that D'Anton Lynn was brought in and that they've worked the transfer portal, but do you expect a significant improvement from USC's defense from last year moving into this year?
I think they're going to take a huge step forward. I think that they hired the right defense coordinator, and I think they did a heck of a job in the portal. I'm not quite sure, though, what improvement looks like on that line of scrimmage. And I think keeping Barrett Alexander was great. If you kind of look at USC a little bit compared to last year, I mean, why he held on to Alex Grinch so long, I don't know if we'll ever know, but it's a defense that allowed 34.4 points and 433 yards per game. So you would think the only way to go really is up. I really like how they brought over John Humphrey and Kamari Ramsey, I think, from UCLA. I think that was a good move. And then they also brought over Kelly Arnold from Oregon State. So definitely going to be a good-looking secondary, in my opinion. So it's interesting. And you know what, guys? Like, I'm sure you've spent like all off season talking about this. You have a USC defense that has a lot to prove, and then you also have an LSU defense that kind of definitely has some questions that they need to answer as well.
There's no question about that. So let me go back to the USC offense. I mean, you talked about Caleb Williams and having to replace him, and you spoke to Miller Moss and kind of what USC fans hope for. But do you expect to see Lincoln Riley just plugging in a new guy and keeping it rolling as he has throughout his time at Oklahoma and USC, or do you expect a little bit of a dip now that the number one pick in the draft is no longer there?
I think there's definitely going to be a dip. I definitely think Miller Moss is going to take some lumps. I will say this about USC. I'm really high on that wide receiver room with Zachariah Branch and Mekhi Lemon, and they got Deuce Robinson at tight end. And I think that gives whoever's starting a quarterback a lot of options. I think Caleb Williams made that offensive line look extremely good at times, even when they probably weren't that great. So I'm interested to see how it all kind of plays out in the trenches in week one.
Look, it's interesting because you bring this up in your piece that they obviously open with LSU in week one, but they play Michigan, they play Wisconsin, they play Penn State, they play Washington, they play Notre Dame. I mean, this theoretically could go south on them. What would that mean?
As in, like, what
if they lose? What if they lose 5 or 6 games? I mean, what would that do to Lincoln Riley's standing there and any momentum that they're trying to have in this rebuild and NIL and all that kind of stuff?
So I don't believe Lincoln Riley is on the hot seat entering this year. I don't. I do think, though, if this year goes as bad as it could go, and I say that because it's just how difficult the schedule is, it's going to be really interesting to see like where Lincoln Riley wants to go after the season, right? I mean, at the end of the day, even if things end up going poorly at USC, he's still Lincoln Riley. There's going to be opportunities in the NFL. That's where he wants to go. So I guess my point is, like, even if it doesn't go well, I don't think he'll be fired, but I'll be more interested to see how Lincoln Riley reacts more than anything.
You obviously cover college sports business and transfer portal for 4on3, and you talked about USC operating with, according to your sources, a $10 to $12 million NIL budget, and that's obviously a hot button issue these days. When you look at that USC job and you look at the booster base and donor base that they have, you look at the facilities that they have and where they are, like, how good is that job? When I was in college, I didn't think USC was ever going to lose a game again. That was in the mid-2000s, and now it feels like they didn't get a single vote to win the Big Ten this year. Like, how good is that job? How fervent is the fan interest? Like, what's the environment around Southern Cal right now?
You know, I think it's still a very good job. I think USC in this new world, now Big Ten, I am very interested to see how it plays out. Like, I would prefer to be the head coach at Oregon right now over USC, and I don't just say that because Dan Lanning's done a good job. I just think that the resources and the facilities are top notch, and that's clearly something Lincoln Riley feels like he still needs to improve at USC. So, I think it's probably one of like the top 25 to 30 jobs in the country still, maybe even top 20, but I don't think it was top 5 like it was 2 decades ago.
The title of your article, can Lincoln Riley and USC take a step forward in year one in the Big Ten? Do you believe that they will?
I'm very skeptical. I just think that Big Ten schedule does not set up very well. I wouldn't even call it like, I didn't include it in the list of Big Ten schools that we talked about, but they do play Maryland and Rutgers this year. And I think Maryland and Rutgers are going to be pretty good. So, like, there's not going to be any games this year outside of that Utah State game that we mentioned where I'm like, yeah, they're definitely going to walk in and they could play like a B, C+ game and walk away with a win. So, I'm going to say no. I don't think that they'll be very successful in year one in the Big Ten.
Pete Nako's got a piece up on 3 talking about USC. If you want to learn more about LSU's season opening opponent, you can certainly check it out right there. You can also follow him on Twitter at Pete Nakos _. Thanks so much for your time, man. We appreciate it.
You bet. Talk soon, guys. Thank you.
Sure will. I think it's interesting. I will hand up. I do this on purpose. I just can't dive into personnel and game plan stuff a month out. I don't do it when LSU has a bye week coming up 2 weeks out because I don't want to burn up content right now that we need right before the game is played. So I don't want to start talking about USC's offensive line. I don't want to start talking about their secondary. And because I don't want to talk about it, I don't know anything about it. I haven't read the preview magazines on them. I've got one on my desk that I plan on reading here in pretty short order, probably a week and a half from right now, and getting into USC prep right now. But I'm just not going to get into that game specifically today. I've seen some folks that cover USC that have started doing podcasts on like matchups with LSU and all that. It's like, I can't do that right now. I'm not. That's content for 2 weeks from now. But I do think USC big picture is very interesting. This is year one in a brand new league. They've got a shiny, flashy coach who hadn't really done anything other than produce a Heisman Trophy winner that lost to Tulane in a bowl game. They beat Utah in that game. They're probably in the playoff, and maybe it's a different story, but they didn't. And so it's interesting, and LSU and USC presents a very interesting week one game because you're talking about 2 programs that if they lose will have serious questions to answer. If Brian Kelly loses his 3rd consecutive season opener, like that's a problem. If Lincoln Riley gets beat by LSU and the offense doesn't look great in the process, and you think that one transformational quarterback who won a Heisman Trophy and was the first pick in the draft was propping up an entire program that's now entering a tougher schedule with a fan base that's hard to pull back into engagement, like that's a problem. On the other hand, whoever goes out there and wins the game is going to be thinking, well, we're a playoff contender, let's go. And it's not dissimilar to what we saw last year with LSU and Florida State, and we saw Florida State won that game and went on and was a playoff contender, and we saw LSU couldn't stop anybody that game and went on and couldn't stop anybody for the rest of the season. There was a lot to be learned that night in Orlando. There will be a lot to be learned in Las Vegas, and I'm curious about USC, but I'm not going to quite dig into all of the personnel at this point. I thought Pete did a really good job of spelling some of that out, so if you want to go check out some of USC, you can certainly do that at his story over there on 3. All right, we'll take a time out when we come back. Luke Johnson from Irvine. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com is the website. They do whole home audio. They do television installation. They do video surveillance. They do Wi-Fi installation. All that stuff can be done with Mitchell Fisher and his team at Audio Video Security Solutions. Make your home the place to watch the game. Have them mount a brand new big flat screen television for you. Have them wire your house for the audio. They can do stuff as cool as voice automation. You can walk into the living room and say, hey, want to watch a movie, and the shades will come down, and the television will come on, and the lights will dim. Like, they can do stuff that quote-unquote fancy. They can do stuff as quote-unquote normal and pedestrian is just mounting a television for you. They do all of it at Audio Video Security Solutions, but have that surround sound put in before football season so that when you sit down to watch a big game this fall, you've got it looking good and sounding great at your home. It's a local company, fantastic customer service. It's Audio Video Security Solutions. Give Mitchell Fisher a call, 225-439-7920, 225-439-7920. They were People's Choice Award winner for the best vendor at the Parade of Homes earlier this summer. Give them a call, Audio Video Security Solutions. That website again, avssla.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756.
On Friday's OTB, it's time for some preseason football. Saints Cardinals, we get you ready. Plus, we get you ready for the weekend with some champagne shenanigans. On the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You are listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
All right, I think it's fair to be officially concerned about the U.S.'s basketball squad.
Serbia's hitting everything right now.
They are making everything. Jokic is balling. The Serbs up 16 points on Team USA in the second quarter. It is 41-25. Serbs on pace to score just a bajillion in this game. I don't know that they can keep that up for the entirety of the game, but they've built quite a cushion at this point, and they've got maybe the best player in the world. So it's going to be an uphill battle for the Stars and Stripes. We'll keep you posted for the next 27 minutes as they continue to play. Luke Johnson out in California with the black and gold joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Luke, how we doing?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. All right, Saints getting ready for preseason game number 1 against the Cardinals. We'll certainly talk about that, but I want to talk about the news of the day, which was Pete Werner getting a contract extension for a couple of years. Your thoughts on his play over the last couple of years and how he fits into the Saints' plans moving forward?
I think the first 2 years of Pete Werner's career were really, really good. And I think there was a lot of optimism for what he could turn into in this defense, especially playing next to Demario Davis. I think they complemented each other really well. Last year, even though the statistics were the best of his career, he played in a career-high 16 games, career-high 93 tackles, forced a couple fumbles. His coverage skills kind of dropped off, and pretty drastically. You look at the Pro Football Reference advanced stats, he allowed an 80% completion percentage when he was in coverage, 101 quarterback rating. PFF graded him as one of the bottom 10 linebackers in coverage grades last year. So it was concerning, and I think that's the Saints challenged him this offseason, both in terms of their words and in terms of their actions. They went out and signed Willie Gay, and the general idea was that he was going to compete with Pete Werner for the weak side linebacker position, which, considering the fact that they're in their sub defense, nickel or dime, about 80% of the time, that's a lot of snaps. So I think Pete Werner really responded to that. And that played a little bit of a role in this. But, the fact of the matter is that for the most part of his career, he's been a very good young linebacker, very dependable. And I think this is just tying into the team through 2027, and the team gets him at a pretty reasonable contract. I think it's pretty good for Pete Werner, considering some of the off-ball contracts signed by linebackers this offseason. But he's slotted kind of right in the middle of the pack in terms of what guys are making in the NFL. I think that makes a lot of sense for both sides.
So who do you expect to see Willie Gay more or Pete Werner more in the regular season, assuming everyone's healthy?
Just based off of the first, this was the 13th training camp practice today. Pete Werner's been out with a shoulder the last couple days, but just based on what we've seen so far, I think it's still Demario Davis and Pete Werner when they're in those sub defensive packages. I think there's going to be a role for Willie Gay, though. It's not going to be quite like the Zach Bond role where he's only playing 8 or 9 snaps a game. I think they're going to try to take advantage of his athleticism and let him go out there and make plays. But I think when we're talking about just what is effectively their base defense, I think the starting linebacker is going to be Pete Werner and Demario Davis.
You had a report yesterday, Saints kind of kicking the tires on an all-pro safety. What do you know as of today?
The last we heard was that Justin Simmons left Irvine, California this morning without a deal, but I don't think that's a sign of this thing not coming to fruition eventually. They're going to be traveling out to Arizona tomorrow. They won't be back here in Irvine, California till Sunday. I think they got a couple days to kind of negotiate and see where the other side's at. But the meeting apparently went well. It extended into dinner last night, and I think I've felt differently than some other people have felt about the safeties room. But I think it needed an upgrade. And I think it still needs an upgrade. Jonathan Abram and Jordan Howden and Will Harris all do some things well, but I don't think any of them are close to being like the kind of complete package that Justin Simmons is. So as long as the money works out, I think this could be really good for both sides here. They're really good for the Saints. I mean, their secondary would just be stocked with all pros, Pro Bowlers. Exciting young players who are on the upswing of their careers. I mean, they could be really, really good if they're able to make something happen with that.
You have any idea what a timetable might look like?
If I were just guessing, I would say they'd probably figure something out by this weekend.
Okay.
But it could push into early next week, and he could very well not sign. I mean, we've seen some movement in the free agent safety market in the last couple weeks. Quandre Diggs signed last week with Tennessee. Eddie Jackson signed, I think, on the first day of training camp at Baltimore. Jamal Adams found a new home early in July. So, it was kind of frozen up until that point, but we started to see some action. So, maybe another team wants to kind of get in on it. I think from the Saints' perspective, it all just kind of depends on where the money stands. So I think they pretty clearly have a lot of interest in the player.
Let's talk about Saturday. What is Dennis Allen kind of looking at approach-wise with his starters, big picture? None, some, young guys. What do we think?
I wish I could tell you, man.
Yeah.
He's really been stubborn with that. Saying that he hasn't talked to the team or the coaches about it, and they haven't. I mean, come on, man. Like everybody knows that he knows exactly who's going to play. I get not wanting to talk to the media about it before you talk to the team about it, but seems like you could have probably had that conversation a couple days ago with the team and had the conversation with the media about it. I don't know. That's just me. I'm looking at it from my perspective, but he is giving us absolutely nothing as far as who might be playing, who might not be playing. Last year Derek Carr played in, I guess it was only the first preseason game. He played one series, and that was pretty much it for him and most of the starters. I don't know if they're going to follow the same thing this time. I mean, my gut says probably no. But I mean, they are debuting an entirely new offensive system. I think they could probably use some game snaps to get some of that stuff down. So, we'll see. I mean, I could be totally wrong, and they could play their starters. They could play them for the whole first quarter. I mean, the kind of traditional preseason rules with when you play your starters, kind of gone out the window the last couple of years. So it's just kind of a mystery at this point.
What positions are you interested in seeing, with the understanding we don't exactly know who's going to be out there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's got to start with the two guys competing for the number 2 quarterback job. I think both have been really impressive in this camp. Now they got to show it in a game setting. It's different, even if it's a preseason game. I think Jake Haener was super impressive throughout all of training camp last year, and he kind of flopped in the preseason. So they got to show it in the game setting, and I'm really excited to see what they look like out there. Spencer Rattler had another just great day today in practice. He hit Kevin Austin for like a long pass on the left sideline, and then he hit him again for a touchdown in the 2-minute drill. I think Jake Haener also looked exceptional in practice today. Really, the only quarterback who didn't look great in practice today was Derek Carr, and that was because Chase Young and Carl Granderson were in the backfield on every play. So I think that's really the primary one for me. And obviously, like I really want to see some of these kicking competitions play out in the game setting. I think that's a completely different atmosphere than it is in practice, especially for like the punters, where it's really hard to get a good sense of how they're doing from like the sideline view. And then Charlie Smith, who's this really interesting rookie kicker from Ireland, who up until last year never even stepped foot on a football field before. I mean, he's got like this crazy strong leg. I mean, we saw him hit one from I think it was 62 or 64 in practice the other day, and I legitimately would have been good from 70. Really interesting player, just not consistent. I kind of want to see that play out in the game as well.
One thing you said there that piqued my attention is that Carl Granderson and Chase Young were living in the backfield. That's really good because they're good pass rushers, and the Saints are going to need them, but there are guys that are supposed to be blocking them that have got some issues. So tell me about the other side of that with the offensive tackles.
Yeah, I think like I'm having trouble like reconciling all this, right? Because I think the pass rushes looked really good, and that's like first team, second team, third team. Yeah, because they've got because they're 5 deep there. They've got Peyton Turner and Isaiah Foskey rolling in with the third team, and those are first and second round picks. But at the same side, a little concerning, right? I mean, that was a whole concern coming into the season, was how was the offensive line going to hold up. I do really think that Tali Fuanga, their first round pick, is going to be a very good player. I think he's going to go through his growing pains, though. People have to be patient with him. Every single thing we hear about him is just like glowing positive, and you can see the really good reps are really, really, really good. But he's kind of been thrown in the fire here against some really good pass rushers who are having really good camps. Trevor Penning, I just don't know. And part of the thing with him is, guys have been like very open about how they're trying to get his confidence up. So then when they're praising what he does, it's kind of hard to parse through that, because they obviously don't want to, go out there and do anything that's going to hurt his confidence. I think he's done some really nice things in camp. I think he's looked really good at points. And I think there's times when he looks like the player who he's been the first 2 years. So that's one where like I fully expect him to be out there for like every every opportunity in this preseason. I don't think they're going to rest him by any stretch. So like we're going to have to watch closely, because while I think he's made strides as a run blocker in particular, I think the scheme really fits him. Like the thing that they need to count on him for is when it's 3rd and 12 and the defense knows that it's going to be a passing play. Like, can he hold up? I think that's still a very much an open question.
Luke, safe travels, and enjoy the football over the weekend. We'll talk next week. Thanks, man.
Sounds good, buddy. See you.
Follow him on Twitter @ByLukeJohnson, Saints reporter for the Times Pick and the Advocate with the black and gold out west as they'll take on the Cardinals on Saturday. Serbia hits a big 3. They are up 13 points as we get close to halftime on Team USA. Keep you posted here over the next 10 minutes or so. But when we come back, we'll play some Take It or Leave It and get on down the road. It's a Thursday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Every shot, every goal, ESPN Bet has fans covered for the biggest moments of the summer. The exclusive sportsbook of ESPN is the only place to find special offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and personalities throughout the summer months. New users can get a bet reset up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. So download ESPN Bet today. What a play. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in partnership with LeBears Lake Charles. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Mosco.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. Tigers have the day off, but what have we learned through LSU camp so far? And the Saints' final practice before preseason game number 1. We'll have it covered. Join us Thursday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Tune in Friday night for the first of 3 shows previewing all 16 SEC football teams as they prepare for the 2024 season. It's the SEC Radio Network's Battle for Atlanta, Friday night, 8 p.m. on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. And Rev will deliver our coverage live from Las Vegas starting Friday, August 30th with Off the Bench and After Further Review, and continuing Sunday, September 1st with Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Our coverage is also presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Watch us live on the 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel. Kick off the 2024 LSU football season live from Las Vegas with Rev and 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
All right, before we play Take It or Leave It, I'll give back a Take It or Leave It here. The Serbs lead by 11 at the half, 54-43. The Serbs will win this game. Take it or leave it back.
Sorry, missed the on button there a couple times. I will leave it. I think the U.S. are going to come back, and LeBron is going to do what he does when the U.S. need him, and he's going to take over. And
he's like 100.
He is, but he's still that guy, Hunt. I mean, we've seen him do it in games already earlier in the pool play when the U.S. were kind of started out slow a little bit in the first half, and whenever they needed him to take over, he could do it. And even if he doesn't do it alone, obviously they've got plenty of other guys that can show up and do what they need to do. Steph Curry really is the main reason the U.S. are even still in that game. He got 17 points, I think, in the first half, hit a bunch of threes. And I think the Serbs will cool down somewhat from 3. I don't think they can sustain that for 4 quarters.
I didn't realize they have Nikola Jokic. They also have Nikola Jovic.
Yes, they do.
I did not know that.
I think he plays for the Miami Heat. He's an NBA guy, and then of course Bogdanovich.
That's right.
Plays
they got
for the Hawks.
Uros Plavsic, former enforcer for the Tennessee Vols. But in the first half, Serbia shot 54% from the floor, 53% from three-point range.
Yep.
Jokic not killing him with the points, only 9, but he has 7 assists right now. He's really good, and somebody's going to have to deal with him in the second half, and hopefully the Serbs kind of realize, oh my gosh, we're about to beat America, and then they'll choke, and we'll come back and win the game. All right, let's play Take It or Leave It.
I will say, before we get started here, I saw a shot in the crowd of Carmelo Anthony, who, of course, was on the team that won bronze, and he had a little bit of a grimace on his face. He's like, "Man, I've seen this show before." So hopefully it doesn't happen again. But starting off here, Noah Lyles won the bronze medal in the 200-meter dash, and apparently he had COVID. Take it or leave it.
I mean, that's good running. I mean, COVID can be a bear. One of my buddies has just had COVID and said he didn't have any energy for like 3 days. I realized 200 meters is not that far, but doing it with the best in the world, trying to win a medal, yeah, that's going to be a little bit difficult. But I'm glad they let him compete and didn't pull him off to the side. Taking Kim Mulkey's advice from a few years ago.
Yeah.
Said, don't test for that COVID. We're trying to play basketball. To let Noah Lyles run, that's just fine.
Yeah, if it is, I think that U.S. Track actually confirmed that he did have it and he tested positive a few days ago. If that's the case, then I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, of course, going after Noah Lyles because of all the claims he made prior to the Olympics, also saying the NBA was not a real world championship and all that stuff. But if that is in fact true, it's pretty impressive that he was able to get the bronze there. But last one here, the White Sox finally won.
They did.
Snapping their 21-game losing streak against the Oakland Athletics. And then they fired their manager, Pedro Grifol. Take it or leave it.
I mean, I guess I'll take it. Pedro Grifol's probably happy. He doesn't have to get up and go to work anymore. Doesn't have to watch that team lose 20, 30 more baseball games over the next month. You just take your check and move on. I mean, I said my piece on the White Sox earlier this week. It's a complete embarrassment that ownership would allow them to get to this point. Same thing goes for the Oakland Athletics, but at least they're like functional as a baseball team when they go out there. The White Sox ineptitude is beyond comprehension at this point because that's a sport that just doesn't allow you to be as bad as they are. And they are going to knock on the door of the worst record in the history of Major League Baseball and very well could break that threshold. That's inexcusable for a team in Chicago.
They're playing our Cubbies today, so they will most likely get another loss added to the record, probably 2 actually in a row.
Really ambitious.
It is actually because they will be having Garrett Crochet on the mound, and
of course they will.
He's pretty much the only reason they even have any wins this season. So hopefully we can get it done.
Cubs.
We're still in it, Hunt. We really are, Hunt. We are only 4.5 games back in the wild card.
All right, we'll see. I don't like our chances, but I will watch again tonight, so we'll see. That's it for Take It or Leave It. LSU back in action tomorrow. No media access allowed tomorrow, so we'll continue to talk some Tigers, but we'll do so without firsthand practice knowledge from yesterday. Still some sound from Joe Sloan that I want to get to. We talked about a little bit of that earlier today. Preston Guy will join us on tomorrow's show to talk some LSU football. The Saints are getting ready for their first preseason game, so we'll preview that matchup with the Cardinals and what we'd like to see in that one, and plenty to get to on tomorrow's show. But our Thursday shows are brought to you by Rouse's. If you're looking to get some weekend groceries today on this Thursday, get on by Rouse's, whether you're in Southwest Louisiana, Southeast Louisiana, here in the Baton Rouge area, all the way over to the Gulf Coast there in Orange Beach, Alabama. You can find a Rouse's location very, very near to you. Fantastic products, incredible quality, and a great shopping experience. If you don't have time to go in the store, though, you can download the app, do your shopping right there on the app, and they'll do the shopping for you, bring that right on out to you curbside if that's what you choose to do. Rouse's, great partner of us here at Guarantee Media, fantastic partner of the New Orleans Saints, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints, and always great to bring you our Thursday shows here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Open things up today with some sound from Joe Sloan, specifically about the running game and how LSU's got to get better. I threw some stats at you. If you want to hear that, you can find it on YouTube at Hunt on LSU. Sonny Shipp with us at 1:15. LSU gets a commitment from CJ Jim Coyley, a safety from Tennessee. Sonny gave his thoughts on that and where LSU may go next in this class. You can also find that at Hunt on LSU on YouTube. The Saints extended Pete Werner. You can find that on Hunt on Saints on YouTube. SEC's top 25 players entering the 2024 Season 3 Tigers made that list on Saturday down south. Meet the freshmen Ahmad Bro and Ori Williams today. Pete Nakos talking USC and Lincoln Riley. He's not real high on the Trojans. If you want to hear that interview, you can do so on demand as well. You can find our interview with Luke Johnson at Hunt on Saints on YouTube. All of our stuff is archived every single day at 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can always find us. That's it for us here on this Thursday. Matt's going to drive you home next on After Further Review. Hope you have a great Thursday evening. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place. It'll be a Friday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one